The creed of the Assassin Brotherhood teaches us that nothing is forbidden to us. Once, I thought that meant we were free to do as we would, to pursue our ideals no matter the cost. I understand now. Not a grant of permission, the creed is a warning. Ideals too easily give way to dogma. Dogma becomes fanaticism. No higher power sits in judgment of us. No supreme being watches to punish us for our sins. In the end, only we ourselves can guard against our obsessions. Only we can decide whether the road we walk carries too high a toll. We believe ourselves redeemers, avengers, saviors. We make war on those who oppose us, and they in turn make war on us. We dream of leaving our stamp upon the world. Even as we give our lives in a conflict that will be recorded in no history book. All that we do, all that we are, begins and ends with ourselves.
Assassin's Creed is one of the most beloved game series of all time, and it was time for another game to continue after the success of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. The world was then shown an amazing cinematic trailer at E3 for Assassin's Creed Unity, and I cannot express the joy and hope many of us felt with this trailer. The French Revolution was a perfect place for an Assassin's Creed story to be told, and let's be honest, Arno fighting alongside other assassins was so cool to see. It felt like watching Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. It honestly felt like we were stepping back in time to the classic Assassin's Creed games, but little did we know we would be let down in disappointment. Ubisoft promised that Assassin's Creed Unity would have co-op, which had many people, including myself, intrigued. Then came the day that Unity finally launched. Unity's launch couldn't have been more of a disaster with so many glitches, frame drops, and the game constantly crashing. The co-op experience was even worse because some objectives would glitch out entirely or it was just unplayable. Ubisoft apologized for the issues and stated that those who had bought the season pass would get one free Ubisoft game, which included Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, The Crew, Far Cry 4, Just Dance 2015, Rayman Legends, or Watch Dogs, and they would also make the Dead Kings DLC free for everyone. Ubisoft also gave people the option to get Assassin's Creed Chronicles China if people wanted to, but they would not be able to sue Ubisoft for the issues of Unity or its season pass. Needless to say, Assassin's Creed Unity was a full-blown disaster at the time. Despite the controversies that came with Unity, I still played it and enjoyed it for myself, despite the bugs, and for those wondering how the game is doing now, I recently streamed it a few months ago on this channel, and most of the bugs have been patched for the main story, although the co-op is still pretty broken. Now that we have gotten the most controversial issues of Unity out of the way, let's talk about some of the things Assassin's Creed Unity did right. I think the graphics for Assassin's Creed Unity are still the best in the series. You can really tell how much effort Ubisoft put in all the details, from the lighting, the shadows, the textures of the buildings, even the way the civilians look. I constantly found myself to be mesmerized wandering the streets of Paris and how much the civilians made the city feel alive. One of the best things to come out of Unity was the parkour, which in my opinion is still the best in the series. The parkour in this game is the most realistic one of them all in the Assassin's Creed series. You can see it takes Arno great effort to climb buildings, but also the way you can run, jump over obstacles, and land is just spectacular. I hope one day they bring back this parkour system in a future Assassin's Creed game or in an AC1 remake. I also really enjoyed doing the murder mysteries. It really felt awesome to be a crime investigator and finding the right perpetrator. It made me feel like I was Sherlock Holmes. Now, some of the things I really disliked about this game were the side quests. They felt really pointless and really didn't add much value to the context of the story. The Nostradamus puzzles and riddles were also one of the most annoying tasks to solve, although you do get a sweet outfit if you complete them. I didn't enjoy the combat in Unity, especially the parry system, since it would be hard to execute even if it was done correctly. The enemies in this game were also very clueless and generic. Trying to get all the collectibles didn't feel rewarding like they do in other Assassin's Creed games. That felt more like an inconvenient chore. Overall, the side activities were some of the weakest aspects of the game. Even the co-op was boring since you only only had a limited number of missions you could do with friends. What I think helps redeem Assassin's Creed Unity is the story. The story had so many complex issues, it felt like watching a movie. Even the present day was interesting to me. The way the game started off with the downfall of the Templars, the burning of Jacques de Molay, and the Templars going underground was brilliant. It felt like I was really there. Then you go into the present day when you're just a regular civilian getting hacked by the assassins, led by Bishop and Sean Hastings, who's going by the codename Deacon. Slowly we join the assassin's side through the Initiate's initiative to investigate another sage, since Abstergo has become obsessed in finding them in order to recreate Isu DNA. So the assassins have hijacked our computer and are giving us the option to help them uncover another sage's location. It was like if a hacker group like Anonymous decided you might be worthy to join them and to help them uncover some mass conspiracy. This would sound enticing to most people because when will there ever be another opportunity like this? The assassins then load us into the memories of Arno Victor Dorian, a French assassin. We load into the Palace of Versailles, where we see a young Arno accompanying his father to an important meeting. While waiting for his father, Arno meets a young girl named Elise, and they get into a bit of trouble by stealing an apple. All of a sudden, there's a commotion going on in the palace, so Arno and Elise decide to go back to see what has happened.
Come away, boy.
Arno, look at me.
"13 years have passed since the murder of Arno's father by an unknown assailant, which we, the audience, know that it was Shay who did the deed. Arno has grown up and has taken up gambling and constantly gets in trouble in Versailles. We see that Arno has grown up with Elise and her father, Francois de la Serre, in their rich estate. One day, Elise's father leaves in a carriage to go to an important meeting when a messenger shows up trying to catch him to deliver an important letter. Arno decides to try to catch Francois de la Serre's carriage to deliver the letter, but loses him and decides to put the letter in his office for him to read later. Arno knows that Elise is coming into town, and wanting to see Elise so badly, he would take one of Francois' suits and decided to infiltrate a secret party that they were throwing for Elise. After finding Elise, we can see that they're clearly in love. After their passionate reunion, Arno decides it's time to leave the palace.
You all right, monsieur? Too much of the king's champagne? Monsieur? Monsieur de la Serre? Monsieur de la Serre!
Sylvain, come away! Guards! Help! Murder!
Oh mon Dieu! He's killed Lord de la Serre!
After being wrongfully accused of killing Francois de la Serre, Arno was thrown in jail at the Bastille. There, he would meet an assassin named Pierre Bellic and would get in a fight after Bellic stole Arno's watch.
What's your name, boy?
Arno. Arno Victor Dorian.
Dorian. Of course. Pierre Bellic. I knew your father.
Bully for you.
He died at Versailles in what, 76, 77? December, as I recall, no witnesses.
How did you...
Your father was an assassin, Arno. He gave his life, fighting for the liberty of all mankind. You stick with me, you might just live long enough to join the Brotherhood. Honor your father's memory.
Listen, I'm sure your little cult is a delightful bunch, but I'm not interested. The only thing I care about is finding Elise.
How are you planning on doing that from in here?
Arno and Bellic would train together for 2 months until revolutionaries and civilians stormed the Bastille. Throughout that chaos, Arno and Bellic escaped, and Arno would perform his first leap of faith. Arno would make his way back to the de la Serre estate and would find Elise.
Elise? That's unwelcome.
One can't be too careful. Not after what happened.
Elise,
Haven't you done enough to repay my father's kindness?
Elise, please. You can't believe I killed Monsieur de la Serre. Your father, he wasn't the man you thought he was. Neither of our fathers were.
I know exactly who my father was, Arno. And I know who yours was. I suppose it was inevitable. You an assassin, me a Templar.
You?
Does that shock you? My father always meant for me to follow in his footsteps. Now all I can do is avenge him.
I swear to you, I had nothing to do with his death.
But you did.
No. No! By my life, I swear I didn't! Is that?
A letter intended for my father the day he was murdered. Read it.
Grandmaster de la Serre, I have learned through my agents that an individual within our order plots against you. I beg you to be on your guard at the initiation tonight. Trust no one, not even those you call friends. May the Father of Understanding guide you. L.
I found that on the floor of my father's room. Unopened.
I didn't know.
Neither did my father.
How could I have known?
Arno felt guilty that the letter he failed to deliver to Francois could have saved his life, so he got drunk and looked at the medallion Bellic had given him. Arno would decide to absolve himself of this great sin by joining the assassins. After drinking from the chalice that the Assassin Council had provided for him, Arno hallucinates about confronting the man responsible for his father's murder.
These are the words spoken by our ancestors, the words that lay at the heart of our creed.
Stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent.
Hide in plain sight.
Never compromise the Brotherhood.
Let these tenets be branded upon your mind. Follow them and be uplifted. Break them at your peril. Rise, assassin. Arno Dorian is dead. He has been culled from this world, his sins and failures turned to dust. Tonight he is reborn, a novice of the Assassin Brotherhood.
I don't know about you guys, but that was one of the coolest ways we've ever seen of someone being inducted into the Assassin Brotherhood. Arno would proceed to do many missions throughout Paris that were given to him by the Assassin Council. Arno and Bellic would proceed to find the men responsible for murdering Francois de la Serre and framing Arno for the deed. Unfortunately, going after the Templars was hard since the Assassins and Templars held a truce, which the Assassins were still abiding by, but the Templars were not, ever since the death of Francois de la Serre, who was the Grand Master. Fortunately, Bellic and Arno were able to persuade the Assassin Council to let them assassinate these men and find out what is happening with the Templars. Arno successfully kills them, but uncovers a big conspiracy of other Templars who planned the death of Francois de la Serre. Arno reported his findings to the Assassin Council. They would gift Arno the Phantom Blade and give him their blessings to go after the other conspirators. Arno was successful in killing them, but learned that they were just puppets working for a mysterious man in a hood, ironically. One of Arno's new allies gives him a lead on the silversmith who created the pin that killed Francois de la Serre. Arno was then given permission to follow this lead and found that the silversmith Francois Thomas Germain was under house arrest by the Templars and freed him.
Thank you, my friend. You've done me a great service today.
Perhaps you can return the favor.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I made the first some years ago on a private contract. A man called a Frenier. That seemed an unusual commission. I confess curiosity got the better of me. Recently, I started to look into the Frenier's background, and what I discovered, you wouldn't believe it.
He's a Templar. Is that what you found?
Yes, I believe so. I didn't know how to take it. In any case, I was careless, and the Frenier found out about my schemes. Kept me under house arrest ever since. I do as he bids. Weapons mostly.
Where can I find him?
Well, Frenier is a very difficult man to pin down. Not long ago, I overheard him talking about protecting the shipments at La Halle Oblé.
Arno, now having a lead on a new Templar and knowing that there was not enough time to tell the Assassin Council, proceeded to hunt down this Templar and assassinated him. Arno looked into his memories but found out that he was not a part of the conspiracy to kill Francois de la Serre. He was in fact the man that wrote the letter warning Francois of his betrayal. Arno would go to report his findings to the Assassin Council.
All hot air and no action! Here's a man with good news, I think. Arno, what did you learn from the silversmith?
Poison. They're catching up.
Germain made that pin, and others like it, for a man named Lafreniere.
Sure.
Certain.
Grand Master de la Serre spoke highly of his loyalty. Very well. I suppose the course is clear, Arno. Find Monsieur Lafreniere.
I have done so already, monsieur. He is no threat.
What are you saying, Pisspot?
I had a lead on Lafreniere. I followed it, and I killed him.
What the hell were you thinking?
How dare you defy the
The
creed?
next time you circumvent the council, I'll give you a new arsehole!
While this council admires your zeal, it is not your place to choose your own targets. You should have reported your findings to us.
Forgive me, Mentor. I believed I had found the man who ordered Monsieur de la Serre's murder. When I discovered further evidence that suggested he was about to strike at the Brotherhood in force, I took action.
Believed? Suggested?
I am no longer certain of Lafreniere's motivations. In his memories, I saw him writing the letter that would have warned Monsieur de la Serre of his betrayal. When he spoke of his impending attack, he mentioned a club in the Marais, not one of our safe houses.
What do you make of this?
I cannot say. I would like to investigate further.
I don't like this. The boy is a gifted assassin, but I fear he's obsessed with a private vendetta. Let another follow this lead.
We don't have time. Whatever Lafreniere was planning, it happens tonight.
He did ask permission this time, Guillaume. Go then. See what you can learn. But no more rash action.
Yes, Mentor.
Despite getting a scolding for killing a target without consulting the council, Arno is granted permission to investigate further and finds out that the Templars want to kill Elise, so Arno goes quickly to rescue her. After getting Elise to safety, Arno promises to help Elise avenge her father and brings her to the council.
My name is Elise de la Serre. My father was Francois de la Serre, Grand Master of the Templar Order. I've come to ask for your help.
Continue.
Mirabeau. Must we rehash this debate again?
We must, and we will, Master Kemar. If you cannot see the advantage in being owed a favor by Francois de la Serre's daughter, I despair for our future. Continue, Mademoiselle de la Serre.
Oh, here we go.
You are not men with whom I would normally parley, monsieur. But my father is dead, as are my allies within the Order. If I must turn to the assassins for my revenge, so be it.
Parlay my arse! It's a trick! To make us lower our guard. I say we kill her, send her head back as a warning. Belek.
Enough! Plainly, this discussion is better conducted in private.
If you will excuse us, Mademoiselle de la Serre.
Certainly.
Arno,
Perhaps you should accompany her. I am sure you two have much to talk about.
After leaving the council, Elise and Arno talk about Germain, and Elise tells Arno that he was exiled from the Templar Order for his radical views and claiming to know Jacques de Molay. They would go back to where he was being held and found a ledger that confirmed he was the one who ordered the hit on Elise's father. They would then be ambushed by Templar snipers. Arno would tell Elise to head towards the estate of Mirabeau, who was the Assassin Council leader. Meanwhile, he dealt with the snipers.
Elise. What is this?
I found him like this. I didn't.
Of course not. But I have to report this to the council immediately. They'll know what to do.
No!
But they don't trust me as it is. I'll be their suspect, first and last.
You're right. Of course you're right.
What are we going to do?
We find out what happened.
Arno would investigate who killed Maribel and found that he was poisoned with aconite, which Templars like to use, which clearly means this was a setup for Elise to take the blame. Arno would track down the person responsible, but he was not prepared to face them.
Belek.
Should have known it'd be you that find me. Only question is, what happens now?
You poisoned Mirabeau!
He poisoned us! Peace with the Templars is a fairy tale.
And you're the only one who can save the Brotherhood?
You think it's the first time this has happened? The first time that the assassins have been forced to purge their leadership? The first time that the Order has built itself back up from nothing to power? No. Masyaf, Monteregione, the American colonies. It's all happened before. And we have risen anew, stronger than ever. But now, we've lost our purpose, Arno. We mired ourselves in politics and revolutions, but we're not a nation. We're an army. And in an army, making peace with the enemy is called treason. No, I'm not the only one that can save the Brotherhood. We can. Together.
Belek. You know I can't do that.
That's a pity.
After Arno killed Belek, he reported his findings back to the council, but would be taken off the Germain case for letting 2 master assassins die. Arno was then tasked to destroy Maribel's letters that he had sent to the king, since it could compromise the Brotherhood. Arno went to the king's office but was confronted by a young Napoleon Bonaparte. Both of them were there for different reasons and decided to work together to find what they both needed. Arno would later meet on with Elise, and both of them would go after Germain's Templars and would finally confront Germain.
Hello, Arno.
Monsieur Germain.
It's fitting you are here to witness the rebirth of the Templar Order. After all, you were there for its conception.
Monsieur de la Serre.
Tried to make him see. But the Order had become corrupt, clutching at power and privilege for their own sake.
But you could set it right. Is that it? All by killing the man in charge?
De la Serre's death was only the first stage. This is the culmination.
Elise tried to chase Germain, but Arno would protect her and Germain managed to escape. Arno would go back to the council to report his findings of Germain and what his plans were, but they instead rebuked him and excommunicated Arno from the Brotherhood. Arno would become drunk for several days in Versailles until he was confronted by Elise, who persuaded Arno to return back with her to Paris to kill Germain and his followers. After they killed many Templars, Elise and Arno would track down a Templar by the name of Maximilien Robespierre and would interrogate him for Germain's location. Robespierre was very hesitant to give up Germain until Elise shot him in the jaw with her gun. After getting the location, both Arno and Elise went and confronted Germain, but found that he was in possession of a Sword of Eden. During the confrontation, Arno would be pinned under rubble. Elise would try to help Arno, but decided to go and confront Germain by herself for what he did to her father.
Elise! 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 Elise!
Bravo. You've slain the villain. That is how you've cast this little morality play in your mind, isn't it? Oh, I'm not really here. Not really there either. At the moment I'm bleeding out in the floor of the temple. But it seems the Father of Understanding has seen fit to give us this time to talk. A particular favorite of mine. I did not understand the visions that haunted my mind, you see. Great towers of gold, cities shining white as silver. Thought I was going mad. And I found this place. Jacques de Molay's vault. Through his writings, I understood.
Understood what?
Somehow, through the centuries, I was connected to Grand Master de Molay. And that I'd been chosen to purge the order of decadence and corruption that had set in like rot. To wash the world clean and restore to the truth the Father of Understanding intended.
That seems to have gone over well.
Prophets are seldom appreciated in their own time. Exiled in the basement forced me to reevaluate my strategy. Find new avenues for the realization of my purpose.
No matter the cost.
A new order never comes without destruction of the old. And if men are made to fear untrammeled liberty, so much the better. A brief taste of chaos will remind them why they crave obedience. Here's we part ways here. Think on this. The march of progress is slow, but it is inevitable as a glacier. All you've accomplished is to delay the inevitable. One death cannot stop the tide. Perhaps it'll not be my hand that shepherds mankind back to its proper place. But it will be someone's. Think on this when you remember her.
After Arno had killed Germain, Arno took Elise's corpse out of the catacombs. Several years later, after the events of Dead King's DLC, we see Arno has rejoined the Brotherhood and has come back to find Germain's corpse with Napoleon. They then buried his remains in the catacombs underneath Paris, which means his remains would be useless for the Templars' plans. Assassin's Creed Unity had the potential to be a great game, but unfortunately that was not the case. With so many problems that the game had at launch, it is safe to say that Assassin's Creed Unity is one of the biggest disasters to ever happen for the Assassin's Creed games. While Unity is not the worst game in the series, it definitely could have ended up being a better product if Ubisoft had instead delayed the game to give the developers enough time to finish the game and fix many of the problems that it had when the game launched. Still, despite all of its failures, I would say Assassin's Creed Unity is very much playable now compared to when it launched. Most of the bugs that plagued Unity in single player have been fixed, although the same can't be said for the co-op. That feature is still full of bugs. This video is in no way made to dissuade anyone from buying the game and experiencing it for themselves. If you guys enjoyed this video, consider becoming a subscriber and leaving a like on this video and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.
Ah, dear Arno, our hopes as to the future condition of the human species may be reduced to 3 points.
Napoleon Bonaparte, you are under arrest for treason and deserting your post.
The destruction of inequality between different nations. The progress of equality in one and the same nation.
Final passengers!
This must reach Al-Mualim in Cairo.
Ha!
And lastly, the real improvement of man.